A very good evening to you all. Happy Friday. You have absolutely made the right choice to choose Rwanda Television, and here is what is coming up tonight. On Friday afternoon at Village Urugwiro, President Paul Kagame received Lord Ray Collins of Highbury, the UK Minister of State for Africa. The UK's government has again reiterated its commitment to supporting Rwanda's developmental efforts while also helping to address broader issues facing the region. My name is Olivnet. It's always a pleasure to have your company. Now let's go deep into the news in details. On Friday afternoon at Village Urugwiro, President Paul Kagame received Lord Ray Collins of Highbury, the UK Minister of State for Africa. Their discussions focused on building on the existing bilateral cooperation between Rwanda and the UK in key areas of trade and investment, environment, education, and more. Moving ahead, President Paul Kagame has addressed participants at the just concluded Africa Food Systems Forum 2024 summit that have been taking place here in Kigali, emphasizing the importance of the agricultural sector to Africa's development. The Rwandan head of state delivered his message via a video recording. Take a look.
Distinguished leaders, ladies and gentlemen, the production of food is the foundation of our economies and indeed of life itself. In Africa, most of our people work in agriculture and agribusiness. Significant gains have been made in recent years to make our food systems more resilient and productive. But there is still so much room to grow and make our farmers more productive and therefore more wealthy. Higher productivity also means lower food prices for consumers, which has a direct impact on poverty and inflation. This forum has highlighted key strategies for speeding up progress, particularly digital and technology applications, and attracting more private investment into agriculture. We are proud to host the African Food Systems Forum in Rwanda. I commend AGRA under the leadership of Mariam Desalegn and Agnes Karibata for ensuring that Africa projects a clear voice on the future of food systems. As we close this year's forum, I especially want to thank the partners and sponsors who make this event possible, as well as the experts, scientists, and entrepreneurs who are advancing the food systems agenda. I thank you and wish you a pleasant stay in our country.
Still on the Africa Food System Forum, Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente has emphasized that Rwanda intends to reform her agricultural sector with the objective of increasing productivity, get more produce to markets, increase exports, and ensure overall food security. The Prime Minister made the remarks during the closing ceremony of the Africa Food System Forum 2024 summit here in Kigali.
First, I would like to highlight that in our journey toward the food systems transformation, we remain committed as Government of Rwanda to our Vision 2050 and to the other international commitments. These include the Sustainable Development Goals and the Comprehensive Africa Agricultural Development Program, among others. Our focus is particularly on SDG 2, which aims to end the hunger, achieve food security, and improve the nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. Rwanda aims at modernizing crops and animal resources production, strengthening market linkages, boosting exports, and ensuring food and nutrition security for all Rwandans. Here, the involvement of the private sector is very much needed, not only in the market, but also at the production level. We are committed to leveraging technology, promoting climate-smart agriculture, and creating opportunities for our youth in the agricultural sector.
To more news, on Friday morning, Prime Minister Dr. Edouard Ngirente met with UN Deputy Secretary General Amina J. Mohamed, and their discussions focused on strengthening cooperation between the UN and the government of Rwanda.
Rwanda is a valued member of the United Nations, more beyond peacekeeping, also the voice in development and leadership on issues of the continent. So today our real discussion centered around the Summit of the Future that is happening in a couple of weeks' time at the UN, which will look more specifically about peace and security. It will look at the financial system and how we can get more resources into investing in development in countries like Rwanda, and then new technology. How can we make sure that there are guardrails around the potentials, and that Africa's position is about it taking the decisions of how it will utilize technology in the future, perhaps to leapfrog, and not the narrative that Africa will be left behind. These are some of the discussions. Others around the vision of the country that will be one that the United Nations will look to support, and so we're looking forward to having those discussions with government in those areas that the priorities are.
The UK's government has again reiterated its commitment to supporting Rwanda's developmental efforts while also helping to address broader issues facing the region and the continent as a whole. Earlier, we spoke to Lord Ray Collins, who is the UK Minister for Africa, for a brief discussion on the matter.
Lord Collins, you visited the Kigali Genocide Memorial on Thursday. What was your experience there?
Well, I found it incredibly moving, and I was quite shocked at the images. But I came away actually sort of realising that one of the positive things about the museum was that it told the whole story from the beginning, from the 1930s, and how actually the genocide against the Tutsis started much earlier in terms of that dehumanizing process. So I thought, I said to His Excellency President Kagame this afternoon, that was an important element of that museum, that it was an educational tool that children would appreciate, that it's not just the incident of the genocide, it's what led to its build-up. Dehumanizing people, hate speech, all of those things that develop into, because words actually begin, genocide starts with those words. And I thought it was an excellent portrayal of how we can end up with such a disastrous and awful incident.
Okay. In light of the different challenges this particular region has continued to face over the years, what issues are you giving priority in your capacity as the UK Minister for Africa?
Well, the priority I've given and the message that I expressed this afternoon, both at the Food Forum meeting, is a message of commitment to partnership for economic growth. The focus has to be on economic growth, and that's not just simply about, it's about a mutual self-interest, because the new government in the United Kingdom is going to be a missions-based government, long-term missions, and our first objective is economic growth. And that objective is going to be reflected in the priorities of the Foreign Office. So my duty as a Foreign Office Minister and the Minister for Africa is to focus on how we can establish strong partnerships for economic growth. And the key is to build on the partnerships that we have with Rwanda, very positive, strong partnerships that have developed over the years, and it will now be renewed by focusing on economic growth.
Now, you recently addressed the UN Security Council on the matter of enhancing Africa's effective representation on the Council and spoke of obstacles to reform and the UK's determination to overcome them. What is being done in that respect?
Well, one of the key objectives, I think, in terms of the United Nations is to make it more effective. I'm always hesitant to use the term reform because it suggests that, you have to change things in a
and get sort of overcome problems. And I think the key for the United Nations is that it embraces all countries. It's the forum for discussion across the board. And I think the fact that Africa does not have permanent representation on the Security Council is bad. It's important that the most important continent in the world has that permanent voice. And what I'm keen to do is ensure to support the African Union in coming to a conclusion on how the best that permanent representation can be achieved. But the United Kingdom is absolutely committed to ensuring that Africa has that permanent representation.
Now, turning our focus to climate change and its effects on the continent as a whole, what do you believe is the most effective way forward in dealing with this issue in particular?
Well, I think, as I said to the conference this afternoon, climate change is a incredibly important challenge for us to focus on. But the solutions, are not just limited to specific actions. It's taking a whole journey approach. And that's why I think our focus on economic growth is important, because some of the innovations that I've seen in terms of agriculture at the forum discussion, in terms of how we can expand trade, all of that is going to be able to address those specific issues of climate change. One of the places I visited was the ACES Centre, where dealing with the supply chains for agriculture, so much food is wasted in terms of its transportation, and how we can have cooling systems and develop those that ensures that products get to the market. And actually there is a very, very positive story to be told in Rwanda about those innovations. And those innovations can address, one of the things I've also seen is how we're expanding the extractive industries that will be important in terms of new energy sources, batteries for electric cars. I also drove on an electric bus in Rwanda. Again, all these elements combined together address the important issue of climate change. But I think for Rwanda and Africa countries, they have made the least contribution to climate in terms of its effects, but they suffer the most. And I think what we've got to do is ensure proper systems of finance to actually mitigate against those changes. And certainly I've had discussions with the government of Rwanda about how the United Kingdom can assist in terms of ensuring that finance is accessible as speedily as possible.
And finally, what are some of your priorities regarding to further bolstering the bilateral relations that exist between Rwanda and the UK?
Well, I think one of the things that I announced this week was how that we could leverage further investment into Rwanda. And I did make an announcement about £35 million fund to AgriVest, a company that is investing in small and medium-sized enterprise, which will be matched by other funds coming in. And that will provide a firm foundation for economic development and growth. It's a small contribution, but I think it's important that we recognise that young people in this country are incredibly dynamic and are very entrepreneurial, and those startups are the roots that will develop into stronger and bigger economic growth.
Lord Collins of Highbury, UK Minister for Africa, thank you for taking the time to speak to us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Serge, for the insightful discussion. Now back to agricultural matters. Michael Misiko, Agriculture Director for Africa at the Nature Conservancy, underscored the urgent need for innovative solutions to combat climate change in Africa, emphasizes the critical role of youth engagement in developing and implementing sustainable agricultural practices. Adam Squizera spoke to him to the Africa Food System.
Fix agriculture without having nature functioning properly. They are interlinked in very many ways. Water, which is an ecosystem service, which comes, because if nature is functioning properly, of course, you've got water. And 70% of water is actually used in agriculture. So that's a direct link. So if you're working in any water source areas, you know how it links with agriculture, isn't it? The second thing is that biodiversity is a very critical thing for agriculture. A simple example is pollination, isn't it? The bees that pollinate the crops. Without the bees, if you're polluting agriculture, using a lot of chemicals, the bees are dying, the insects, you won't have your food because that's a service that you rely on in production. And the other thing is that if you cut trees and if you cause a lot of degradation and you end up actually impacting the climate, if you have a bad climate and then you've got low productivity, because of course if you've got a lot of droughts, frequent ones, severe ones, then you end up actually without agricultural productivity and low agriculture production. So climate does not know boundaries. If there's drought in Rwanda along the border with Uganda, and if a river is coming from Uganda into Rwanda, or Lake Kivu relies on Rwanda, Congo, climate doesn't care where natural resources fall. And so regionally, you've got to have programs that are based on the ecosystems and not based on political or country boundary, administrative boundaries. And that's very important. And not just important, but something that needs to be addressed urgently in how do you do conservation cross-border programs, very critical. Number two, cross-border trade. Food being produced in Rwanda can be sold in Kenya or in Tanzania without having to produce it locally. So you can save forests in one place, produce food in a place that is suitable for food production, whether it does not lie in one country or the other. So Rwanda will be producing something that is good for the region, and it doesn't have to be produced in another place. So we're protecting the environment from a regional perspective and not doing it in small pockets where we're destroying the environment and failing to address not just environment, climate at a regional level. I think the example that I've given you around cross-border, programs, I'll give you a very solid example. If you've got a lot of climate-related problems in agriculture, and you end up with more pests because of changing climate, there are more and more pests and diseases. These diseases are affecting farmers across borders. When we had the fall armyworm, it was an African problem. It required that the East Africa community, for example, acts, that the AU acts. FAO was working hand in hand with regional bodies to address those problems. They are linked to climate, frequent droughts, frequent problems to do with diseases and pests. They are all linked to climate change. You can only solve them if you're approaching them from a regional point of view, setting up proper collaborative arrangements among governments, among institutions like TNC. And TNC is very good in convening that type of work, looking at cross-border arrangements where we're working with not just governments but also private sector and other organizations to make sure that there is organized intervention and not just some piecemeal, isolated programs. In Africa, the youth are by far the biggest, section of the population. And demography in Africa is very critical in the sense that if you're talking about the people who will farm tomorrow, they are the young people of today who don't have the skills and the finance to invest in agriculture. That's where I would like to begin. How do we make sure that the youth who don't own collateral have an advantage in gaining access to finance to invest? How do they get the skills? But I would like to remind you that the youth don't want to get an income for one day. The youth want an income that is going to sustain them for a very long time. And so agriculture tends to be seasonal. How do we make agriculture attractive in a manner that is going to give youth incomes sustainably for a very long period of time? The second thing is beyond income is how do we make agriculture take advantage of the digital tools that we have? How, for example, in how they get information. How do we take advantage of mechanization? Mechanization that protects the environment but also enhances youth participation, because youth are not going to be toiling in the soil like my grandmother did. They will need to actually make sure that they are earning, but also that they are doing a decent job in making sure that they are feeding the world. Then lastly, I would like to revisit the issue of skills and how we pass them. We're not going to have skills, passed in schools and in colleges only. Can we have rural programs that aggregate the youth into groups that are action-oriented and that they are not working alone, but they are working with role models and those who they can look forward to as examples in their lives in terms of how they actually have succeeded. Those are just a few examples that I would like to provide, yes.
Moving ahead to more news, 23 military officers, part of the Eastern Africa Standby Force, have completed a 2-week training of trainers course at Rwanda Peace Academy. The course focused on the conduct of the officers during peacekeeping missions.
We do understand the diversity of the region, the issue of security, dynamics involved, the issue of interstate conflicts, cross-border skirmishes, and it is important and crucial for us as members of the Eastern Standby Force to be prepared to be able to support peace support operations in planning, preparations and conduct. As staff officers, we are supposed to support our force commander in planning. Basically, in terms of decision making, we need to plan and have an elaborate plan to ensure our region is safe, secure and stable. And this is meant to aggregate to the wishes of our African leaders to ensure that our African continent is also safe, stable and secure at all times.
The officers will now be expected to pass on the knowledge they have experienced to their colleagues.
The skills and knowledge you have acquired over these 14 days will not only benefit you, but will be passed on to others, ensuring that future generation of officers are well prepared for the challenge of peacekeeping. As you return to your respective countries and units, I urge you to apply these skills and insights you have gained here, share your knowledge with your colleagues, and continue to train others, ensuring that the ACF remains formidable and effective peacekeeping force.
These officers are from Djibouti, Ethiopia, Kenya, Rwanda, Somalia and Uganda. Moving ahead to education matters, lecturers and students from College of Science and Technology, University of Rwanda, are working on bringing in to the market, Rwandan market, the first ever smart device capable of measuring, monitoring and predicting electromagnetic radiations and their interactions across different biomedical devices. William Evans has more.
University of Rwanda, College of Science and Technology, held an awareness workshop on electromagnetic compatibility monitoring and prediction models for biomedical devices. This project, intended to develop a new device that will be used to monitor and to predict electromagnetic radiations from biomedical devices used in hospitals. Dr. Omar Gatera, senior lecturer at the University of Rwanda College of Science and Technology, who is also the PI of this project, revealed that this device is going to be the very first smart device on the Rwandan market and brings numerous benefits to the health sector.
The main contribution is to make the existing device on the market, to make them smart and to facilitate the job of biomedical engineers in the hospitals.
From industrial trainings and different internship arrangements, lecturers at the College of Science and Technology in the University of Rwanda were able to identify issues with the current devices used and together with their students embarked on a journey to come up with a smart device as a solution to some of the challenges.
The idea came from us lecturers because we normally send students to hospitals to do internship, industrial training. Then when they come back, they do presentations of their findings, and in that way we identified where is the problem. Yes, that's how we had the idea. Then we proposed this project to the funder. Then it was funded.
This smart device uses artificial intelligence to measure, monitor and predict electromagnetic radiations and their interactions across different biomedical devices installed at different hospitals, as explained by Nyakuri Jean-Pierre, who is in charge of developing this device's software and hardware.
Actually, this is a smart device that applies concept of artificial intelligence to measure the electromagnetic radiation from medical devices. It detects real-time data or real-time results from the electromagnetic radiation. It notifies to the right personnel via internet. It can use a smartphone. You can also use the internet. You can have your personal computer, and also it can also send a short message, SMS, to your smartphone, or even the traditional cell phone, telling you about the quantity and even giving you the recommendation about the measure to be taken to avoid that those electromagnetic radiation could harm a patient. So now we come up with the artificial intelligence solution that will be able to detect those electromagnetic radiation and then notify or give recommendation to doctors, patients, or other medical personnel.
The African Electrotechnical Standardization under the Technical Committee 77, which is in charge of the electromagnetic compatibility, published a book to raise awareness about the electromagnetic compatibility. This is what the book contains in part, according to Professor Amevi, the President Technical Committee 77 of Ghana, who presented at the workshop.
We describe how equipment, when not tested or not controlled, can actually emit radiations that can be detrimental to other equipment working in the close vicinity, and the consequences this has on medical devices. And we are also excited that in today's presentation, another device is developed from the University of Rwanda, especially the College of Science and Technology, have been presented and comply with the standard requirement for EMC devices and combined with IoT and artificial intelligence.
Electromagnetic compatibility of household electrical devices is equally important because this is the ability of electro and electronic equipment to function properly in an environment without causing or experiencing unacceptable electromagnetic interferences. Under AFSEC, guidelines have been issued to ensure production of electrical equipments that do not emit high radiations, but also those with immunity from radiation interferences. William Evans, Mtabazi, RTV News.
You're still watching RTV News, still on local matters, now to education sector. Action College, that specializes in providing courses in languages as well as vocational training, has held a graduation ceremony featuring more than 400 of its students that have successfully completed their studies. During the ceremony, the students expressed confidence in the skills they have acquired, vowing to put them to good use towards becoming productive members of the society. On their part, the college's administration said that they are proud of the achievements the institution has made in the decade it has been operational, but also pointed out that much more needs to be achieved. Action College currently has 4 different vocational sections on offer for students to choose from, ranging from mechanism to hairdressing. Moving ahead, the NG Energy Access, in collaboration with Samsung, started providing smartphones for citizens through 1-year installment payment. And according to Patrick Ajiwanju, the managing director of NG Energy Access Rwanda, the aim is to impact the lives of citizens in addition to their usual contribution in solar power supply.
Through this partnership with Samsung, together with our team, 300 plus sales agents across the country, our 11 service centers, our call centers, all our team supporting. With Samsung team, we want to achieve this year 5,000, let's say, people having access to smartphones and data. So this is just for this year, 2024, and we are also working on our target for next year.
The head of the mobile division at Samsung East Africa, Anthony Huchia Mungai, assures clients and citizens at large that providing these smartphones at an affordable rate, it does not compromise the quality factor.
Plan is bigger than that, than 5,000 units, definitely. We are looking at doing bigger numbers going forward. So it's just that we can call it only for maybe for a week. We want that to be for a week only. We want to have that bigger number, even through with NG. Now, what we do is On affordability is because of Samsung using quality product, quality material, we guarantee you a quality product, and that's why we try and make the price affordable, but yet don't compromise on the quality. That is why our price is what it is. Then now when we partner with NG give you easy installment payments. That makes it easier for you to be able to afford. A phone that you're supposed to pay, for example, $100, divided in 12 months, it makes it even more affordable for you. So you can be able to afford quality Samsung device over a period of time, and you pay easy installment payments. That is why the partnership is really important.
And the story brings us to the end of tonight's bulletin, and on behalf of the technical and news production team, we sincerely thank you for tuning in to today's broadcast. Have a restful week ahead. Goodbye.